Hi, I'm Odalyn, and last Friday, my sister looked me dead in the eye, smirked, and said, "We all agreed. You're not welcome at the engagement party." No warning, no explanation, just erasure, served with champagne and a smile. What she didn't know? I was the one who'd wired $17,000 to build that perfect little party. So I smiled, walked away, and by morning, there were 58 missed calls and one voicemail that changed everything. Before we dive in, tell me, have you ever been cut out of your own family's picture? Because this is what it looks like when you stop begging for a seat and start pulling the receipts. It was 4:37 p.m. when the group message came in. I had just emailed a final grant proposal to one of our long-term nonprofit clients, leaned back in my chair and stretched out my fingers. The sun slanted through my office window, the kind of warm Texan light that made the world look honest. Then my phone vibrated. "Hey everyone, can't wait to see you all at the party. Odalyn, we talked. It's best if you sit this one out." No hi, no call, no explanation. Just that. From Callista, my sister, my only sister. The thread was still pinging, our cousins sending heart emojis, one of them asking if she should bring deviled eggs. But all I could see was that one line. I blinked at it, read it again. Then once more, slower this time, hoping it would change. It didn't. My name, mine, had been carved out of a moment I had helped create, and Callista had typed it like I was a footnote. I locked my phone. I unlocked it, then locked it again. My eyes burned, but I told myself it wasn't worth crying over. Not here, not in the office with the team 2 doors down. I stood up too fast, told Susan I needed to grab something from the storage room, then walked straight past it and into the women's restroom. Once inside, I ducked into the last stall, locked it, and sat on the closed lid. That's when my chest cracked open. No sound, no sobs, just this deep, thudding ache behind my sternum. I had wired them the deposit myself, $5,000. Just last month. Callista had said, "We'll pay you back once Dad frees up the inheritance chunk. It's just timing." I didn't ask questions, I didn't push, because that's what I always did, help, without expecting anything. Now, I wasn't even expected to show up. When I got home, Tyler was already in the kitchen. The man could read me like a map. He looked up once, then set down the mug he was rinsing. What happened? I shook my head, tried to smile, then handed him the phone. He read the message once and didn't blink. "This isn't just a party," he said. "This is a message. They don't see you." I sat on the arm of the couch, exhaling like the words had knocked something loose in my spine. Maybe they just think I'm too busy with work. I've missed some calls lately. He gave me a look I'd learned to stop arguing with. "No, they think you'll stay quiet, like always." He wasn't wrong. I thought about Mom's 60th, 2 years ago. I had spent a week coordinating it. Flowers, catering, making sure her friends from both churches showed. And during the speech, when Callista thanked everyone, she said, "And of course, to the whole family for making today possible." That was it. No name, no nod. I told myself I didn't care. That Mom knew, that Callista was just flustered. But it wasn't the first time. It had started slowly, forgotten texts, left out invites, family group pics where I stood off to the side. I told myself I was imagining it. Now I wasn't so sure. Around 11 that night, I took my laptop out to the patio and curled up with a blanket. Tyler had gone to bed. The house was still. I opened my banking app. First, the engagement shoot, $2,400, then the catering deposit, $4,600, brunch reservation, $1,900, floral installation, $3,200, miscellaneous expenses, wedding favors, menu design, transport coordination, $4,900, $17,000, and not one person thought I deserved to be there. I began the process quietly, called the florist, emailed the brunch venue, flagged transactions for refund and reversal. I froze my personal card linked to the wedding website. I didn't add a note. I didn't need to. By 1 a.m., the quiet had settled over me like a second skin. At 2:13, my phone lit up. 58 missed calls, 1 voicemail, from Callista, And then, at 2:14 a.m., I pressed play and heard the sound of desperation for the first time. Callista's voice crackled through the speaker, rushed and breathy. "Odalyn, we need to talk. I think you misunderstood. It wasn't meant to come off that way. Mom was the one who can you call me?" She sounded frantic, like someone trying to plug a dam that had already burst. I let the message play once. Then again, I didn't move, didn't blink, just sat on the edge of the guest room bed, back hunched, eyes fixed on nothing. I waited to feel something. Anger, hurt, relief even. But all I felt was the sound of her voice bouncing around in a place that had already closed the door. I didn't call her back. I didn't even save the message. I deleted it. Because that wasn't an apology. That wasn't regret. That was fear. Fear that the person they thought would always foot the bill had finally walked away. By the time the sun had started to rise, a soft orange hue creeping into the blinds, I'd already made a list. Not a written one. A mental one. All the times I had been erased. Gently, politely, but deliberately. That Christmas photo where everyone wore matching pajamas and I wasn't even invited to the shoot. The family video tribute Callista posted on Dad's birthday where she said, "Odalyn's probably working again." No one corrected her. And Mom, smiling at a dinner party, glass in hand, turning to her friends and saying, "Callista always had such refined taste, didn't she? She gets that from her father." Then, catching herself and adding, "Oh, and of course Odalyn has her strengths too." I had paid for that party. Every flower, every chair rental, the overpriced hors d'oeuvres Mom said she hated, but finished all the same. It was always like that. I gave, they took. And when the moment came to acknowledge me, they reached for someone else. 6 months ago, when Callista's engagement party planning began, I'd offered to help because no one else had a clue what they were doing. She wanted a vineyard vibe, chandeliers and trees, charcuterie boards shaped like her initials. I made it happen. Called the vendors, paid deposits, upgraded the champagne tower because I knew that's what she secretly wanted but wouldn't ask for. That night, after the toast, I waited. I had been asked to say a few words. I wrote a short, thoughtful speech. It never happened. Instead, Megan, Callista's loud, overly tanned best friend, grabbed the mic and said, "Honestly, I've done so much for this girl, I might as well be the maid of honor." Laughter. Applause. Even Callista laughed, playfully pushing Megan's arm like it was all harmless fun. Later that night, as we drove home, Tyler glanced at me and asked, "Did you notice how they skipped over your speech?" I lied and said I forgot, but I hadn't. I remembered every second of that awkward pause when the MC looked around and said, "Well, that wraps it up." This time, I wasn't forgetting anything. Later that morning, I made myself a mug of coffee, just enough sugar, no milk, and opened my travel folder. There were 2 more services I'd scheduled as surprises for the wedding, a mobile espresso cart for cocktail hour, and a string quartet for the ceremony. I canceled both. Then I sent my accountant a brief but clear email. "Please remove all auto-pay links tied to the Phillips Hargrave event, effective immediately." By lunch, I'd logged into the wedding's shared Google Drive. The spreadsheet labeled Planning Master still had my initials on everything from calligraphy samples to lighting coordination. I deleted my access and left the file. No one texted to ask why. The afternoon passed slowly. I let the house go quiet, didn't turn on the TV, didn't check social media. I folded laundry like it was a ritual, wiped the counters twice, and tried not to spiral. But the universe has a cruel sense of timing. Around 5:40 p.m., a message popped up from one of the bridesmaids, Molly. "Hey, random question. Did you end up designing the menus or was that Reagan? I saw her name on the design doc." Reagan. Of course. Reagan was the same woman who once told me at brunch that I gave off HR vibes. She had called my menu ideas a little too rustic, and now she was claiming them as hers. I stared at the message. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I could feel my stomach tighten, that slow churn of fury that simmers under the ribs. Then came another notification, a calendar invite. Title: Final Seating Arrangement Review, hosted by Callista plus Reagan. No mention of me, not even a courtesy CC. I didn't need a seat on the planning team. I didn't even want one anymore, but what stung wasn't that they forgot me. It was that they had replaced me. So that's what I'd become now, someone who funded the vision but never had a seat at the table. I closed the laptop slowly, letting the silence stretch across the living room like fog. Outside, the branches of the oak tree tapped gently against the window pane, the kind of tapping you don't notice until your chest is already tight. I stood, unsure what I needed: air, answers, maybe just noise. My hands reached for the nearest box by the bookshelf, one of those old banker's boxes I hadn't touched since packing up from Callista's last engagement dinner. I flipped it open without thought. Right on top, tucked between leftover place cards and a vendor invoice, was a cloth napkin. Not just any napkin. This one was creased into a lotus flower, carefully folded, familiar. I'd learned that fold from Grandma Marin when I was 13. She used to say, "Hospitality is an art. Even the napkin should say you're welcome here." I remember showing it to Callista during the planning phase of her first engagement dinner. She wrinkled her nose and said, "It's a little too much, don't you think?" But then, a week later, I saw those napkins folded exactly the same way on the tables. No credit, no mention. That same night, she told someone across the table, "I always have to tone Odalyn down. She's kind of intense about this stuff." And there it was again. Too intense. It had followed me like a shadow since high school. Anytime I pushed for acknowledgement, I was dramatic. When I stayed silent, I was cold. Either way, I was always too something. I sat back on the floor, the napkin still cradled in my hand like a relic. It hurt more than I wanted to admit, not because she'd used my idea, but because she knew it mattered to me. And that's exactly why she buried it. Later that afternoon, I was in the kitchen when Tyler leaned against the doorframe, arms folded. "Do you even want to go anymore?" My answer came too quickly. "Of course." Then quieter. "I mean, I've already put so much into it." He didn't move, just blinked once. "That's not what I asked." The hum of the fridge filled the silence that followed. I opened my mouth but said nothing, because the truth was, I didn't know anymore. That evening, after Tyler had gone upstairs and the house settled into its nighttime quiet, I pulled out my planner, the one I'd used to track every wedding detail like a second job. I flipped to the month of the wedding and started annotating everything in red ink. $4,000, custom florals, $900, stationery suite, $2,300, arch rental, $2,000, just in case cancellation buffer I'd prepaid, in case anything goes wrong. Callista had said I drew a thick, unapologetic X across the top of the page. Callista's wedding. Around 10:30 p.m., just as I was getting ready to log off and turn in, my phone rang. "Aunt Vivian," the screen read. I hadn't heard from her in over a year. "Hey, sweetheart," her voice came gently. "I debated whether I should say anything, but I saw the seating chart." I sat up straighter. "What about it?" "You're not seated with the family, Odalyn. You're not even in the front half of the ballroom. They've got you under extended circle." My mouth went dry. "Extended circle?" I repeated. Vivian paused, her voice softening even more. "I asked Callista about it and she passed it off, said you didn't want to be too visible. Then she mentioned your mom told her that." I felt something in my chest contract, a quiet collapse. "She said I didn't want to be visible." "Honey." Vivian didn't finish. She didn't need to. I thanked her for calling and ended the call before I heard more sympathy in her voice, because I wasn't ready for sympathy. I wasn't ready for anyone to remind me that I should have known better. For the next hour, I printed every single receipt I could find tied to the wedding, each email confirmation, each vendor invoice. I stapled and organized them neatly into a folder. On the cover, in thick black Sharpie, I wrote, "In case they ask." Because something in me knew they would. They would rewrite the story. They always did. It was nearing midnight when I sat down again with my laptop, feeling brittle but oddly clear. I typed in the wedding website URL. I hadn't checked it since I'd set up half the vendor info on the back end months ago. Now on the acknowledgements page, where my name once sat under Sister of the Bride, I read, "Special thanks to the incredible support from Reagan." Nothing else. No trace I had ever existed there. No Odalyn, no family, not even a nod to the work I'd done. They didn't just erase me, they replaced me with someone who hadn't even been around when we dreamed this day as little girls. The glow from the screen dimmed, but the sting behind my eyes didn't. I shut the laptop and sat quietly for a moment, pressing my palms flat against my thighs to ground myself. It wasn't rage. Not yet. It was something deeper, like someone had reached inside and rearranged the furniture of my memory. At 7:42 the next morning, my phone buzzed with a new message. From Mom. "We assume you'll come to the engagement party just to show face, but keep things classy." That was the whole message. No good morning, no thank you, just a directive, and the part that lodged itself beneath my ribs, just to show face. I turned the phone toward Tyler, who was making coffee in the kitchen. He read it, slowly, then looked up at me. "So, now they want your dignity, as decor." I didn't answer, but something inside me shifted. Not a crack, a click. After breakfast, I sat at my desk and pulled out the small white notepad where I kept tracking payments I made toward the wedding. The champagne bar had been my last gift. A $2,000 check mailed 3 weeks earlier to an upscale vendor Callista said she had always dreamed of working with. Out of curiosity, I called the vendor's office. A cheerful woman answered. "Oh yes, that cleared last Monday," she said. "We've already got the signage printed with Reagan's name. She was so sweet during the consultation." I blinked. "Sorry, did you say Reagan?" "Yes, Reagan Sandler. She was listed as the sponsoring party." I didn't correct her, just said thank you, hung up and sat still. I opened my messages, created a new group chat with Callista, Mom, and Reagan. My fingers didn't hesitate. I typed, "Hi, just to be clear, I'll be attending only if my name is acknowledged. Otherwise, I will be withdrawing from the event completely, both physically and financially." The message turned seen in under 5 minutes. No reply. Not from Callista, not from Mom, not even a passive-aggressive emoji from Reagan. I took a screenshot, saved it to a folder I created right then. Backup truth. By early afternoon, the consequences of my boundary began to ripple, not in private, but in public. I was scrolling through Facebook when a family friend, Aunt Janice, the kind who's always posting inspirational quotes and casserole recipes, posted a photo of Callista standing under her engagement arch. Caption, "So proud of Callista for pulling this off mostly on her own. Independent women rise." The comment thread grew quickly. Mom had chimed in, "She's always had vision. No distractions, no drama." Then Reagan, "Some people write checks. Some people create moments." I felt that one. Not because it was clever, but because it was calculated. I didn't respond. Instead, I grabbed my planner and walked to the guest room closet, where my formal wear was stored. I sifted through hangers until I found it. A matte navy gown, simple but sharp. No sparkle, just quiet strength. Tyler walked in as I laid it across the bed. "You're still going?" I looked up. Not as a guest, as a mirror. He didn't push further, just walked over, kissed the top of my head, and whispered, "Then wear it like armor." The day of the engagement party came. I arrived 15 minutes early, parked 2 blocks away to avoid the chaos, and walked in through the side entrance of the venue. No one noticed me. No one greeted me. The room was already buzzing with champagne and chatter. Laughter echoed under high ceilings dressed in garlands I had helped fund. I glanced toward the front. White name cards in ornate gold holders. Mine wasn't at the head table. I scanned again. Nothing. Eventually, I found it. Tucked near the far wall, in a corner next to a backup speaker, was my name, misspelled even, Odalyn. I didn't flinch. I took the seat quietly. My folder, containing every receipt, every email, every plan I'd drafted, rested inside my navy clutch. No one approached me, but from where I sat, I could see everyone, and every time someone raised a glass, I knew exactly what they were toasting, something they thought I had no hand in, something they thought could be rewritten without consequence. I didn't come to cause a scene. I came so they'd see who they'd left out of the picture and who never needed to beg for a frame. The moment I stepped onto the terrace, it was like I didn't exist. The lights shimmered over the stone patio, draped in soft white linens and warm string bulbs. A string quartet played near the floral arch, an arch I had picked out 3 months ago after back-and-forth emails with the vendor. The air smelled of lavender and Prosecco. No one looked my way. A temp in a black vest approached me, holding a clipboard. "Ma'am, this entrance is for vendors. Can I help you find the staff check-in?" I blinked once. "No, thank you. I'm a guest." She nodded, embarrassed, and stepped aside. I walked slowly toward the garden's edge, past a hand-painted welcome sign propped on an easel. In delicate gold script, it read, "A love built on real support, Callista and Reagan." Real support, I repeated to myself quietly. The irony cut deeper than the wind did. I chose a seat in the very last row, far from the murmurs, laughter, and camera flashes. From there, I could see the front stage, the chandeliered tent, and the slideshow screen being prepped. The slideshow started about 20 minutes later. A hush fell over the crowd as the screen lit up. First photo, peonies arranged in a circular spray, my signature design. I remembered the day I worked with the florist to build it. The caption read, "Floral Dreams by Reagan Events." Another slide, a shot of the printed menus on handmade linen cards I had commissioned through a boutique stationer in Houston. The caption, "Designed and curated by Reagan and Callista." Then came the final image, an overhead of the champagne bar, styled with old crystal bottles and hand-etched glass. At the center, a bowl of golden citrus punch with rosemary sprigs. The recipe was my grandmother's. I had written it from memory on a yellow notepad and mailed it to Callista 6 weeks ago. The caption, "Inspired by the bride's lifelong bestie." The applause was thunderous. My mother, seated near the front in a shimmery silver gown, clapped with both hands. Her smile reached the ceiling. No one turned to me. I reached for my phone under the table and typed a message to Tyler. "Me. They just erased me. It's happening in real time." A moment later, "Tyler, do you want me to come get you?" I stared at the screen. My thumb hovered, but I couldn't bring myself to answer. A shadow leaned in beside me. Megan, my cousin, bridesmaid, and the only one in the family who ever called out the obvious. She whispered without looking directly at me, "You should have known they were going to do this." I turned toward her. "I did." "Then why'd you show up?" "I'm not here for them." She finally looked at me. "Then who?" I didn't blink. For the part of me that finally stopped apologizing. She said nothing after that, just nodded and turned back toward the stage. The clinking of a glass echoed across the terrace. Callista stood now, radiant under the lights in a champagne-colored gown. She raised her flute. "I just want to thank every single person who supported this journey from day one," she began. "To Reagan for being my rock, to my mom who believed in my vision, to Tanya, our amazing floral intern, and to all of you for showing up for me and making this night magical." Her eyes swept the crowd. They landed on me, held for a beat too long. She smiled, tight-lipped, said nothing, then looked away. The crowd clapped again. Someone near me coughed. 2 guests glanced in my direction with half-curious expressions, like they couldn't place me. One offered a polite, confused smile. I nodded back, slowly. I didn't match their energy. I just acknowledged it and tucked my phone away. I stood, quietly. No one noticed. I stepped off the stone terrace, heels clicking against the path as I walked toward the parking lot. The wind had picked up slightly, rustling the hem of my gown. Inside the car, I opened my clutch and pulled out the folder I'd carried all night. I slipped in one final page, the invoice from the linen vendor for the exact napkin fold design, the one that now graced every table. Then, across the top of the cover, I wrote in blue ink, "Proof of everything you took and claimed as your own." I closed the folder with steady hands. I left behind a chair with my name never written, but walked out carrying the truth they hoped no one would ever see. By the time the sun rose, I'd been up for 2 hours, fully awake, fully aware. I sat at the kitchen counter in my robe, hair still pinned up from the night before, with a mug of coffee I hadn't touched. The house was quiet. Tyler had gone for an early jog, leaving me alone with the stillness, and the folder I'd carried out of that engagement party like it was evidence. Because it was. I opened my laptop and began uploading every receipt I had, itemized payments, email confirmations, mood boards, sketches, catering agreements, even photos of handwritten notes on Callista's vision board that I had helped her build 2 years ago when she first said, "Let's do this right." My name, my timestamps, my edits. I labeled the folder, Wedding Ghostwriter, when credit isn't free. I didn't want revenge that looked like revenge. I wanted clarity, documented, time-stamped, and impossible to twist. After I double-checked the files, I wrote 2 emails. The first went to Aunt Vivian. The subject line, "Since no one asked, here's the truth." The second was harder. I hesitated before typing James's email, Callista's fiancé, but I knew if anyone needed to see it, it was him. Same subject. No explanation, just the link to the folder. Then I hit send and closed the laptop. I didn't wait long. By mid-morning, my phone rang. James. I let it go to voicemail. Then he called again. I answered. "Odalyn, I just went through all of it," he said, breathless. "The designs, the contracts, the dates. You did all this?" "Yes." His voice dropped. "Why didn't you say something?" I stared out the window. The sky looked cleaner than usual. Because the people who were supposed to know already knew, and let it happen anyway. There was a long pause. I thought you stepped back. Callista said you were overwhelmed, that you didn't want the attention." "No, James, I was pushed out, and then replaced, with someone flashier." He let out a shaky exhale. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," I said. "I just needed someone to finally see." He promised to call again. I didn't expect him to. By lunchtime, Callista's name popped up on my screen. Her text was short, cold. "Callista, how dare you go behind my back like this? You're making me look like a monster." I stared at it for a while, then typed my reply slowly. "Me. I didn't make you look like anything. I just turned on the light." She didn't respond. By mid-afternoon, something else happened, something I hadn't planned. One of the top wedding planners in Austin reposted a photo from the folder, my floral mood board, tagging it "Anonymous Contributor" with the caption, "Brides, give credit where it's due. Plagiarism isn't just academic." Within the hour, it was reshared by 3 other accounts. By sunset, my inbox had dozens of messages. Some were from strangers. A few were from vendors I hadn't worked with in years. "I saw the file. That was your work. Good for you for saying something. You made that event what it was." I didn't answer any of them. Not yet. I didn't need applause. I just needed the silence to end. Then Reagan struck. Around 9 p.m., her Instagram story went up. A blurry photo of me taken from behind, sitting alone at the far end of the engagement party. The caption dripped with sugar and venom. Funny how some people wait until the party's over to demand a spotlight they never earned. Then another slide, a boomerang of her clinking glasses with Callista, both laughing. Some people don't know how to leave gracefully. My phone buzzed as others forwarded it to me. I sat on the couch, eyes fixed on the screen, heart quiet. No anger, no tears, just a click. I opened my laptop, opened the built-in camera, and hit record. My reflection blinked back at me, calm and clear. They wanted the world to see me sitting in the shadows, but I'm done being silent in the dark. By the time midnight passed, my mind was set. They had their cameras, their curated captions, their filters. I had the truth. so I brushed my hair back, set up my laptop on the kitchen table, and hit record. The house was dark except for the light above me, just me, my voice, and 5 minutes I'd never get back, but knew I'd never regret. I didn't rage. I didn't name names. I simply spoke. My name is Odalyn. I was part of something you saw last weekend. A beautiful celebration. Some of you know me as a quiet face in the crowd. What you didn't know is, I designed what you clapped for. I funded what you toasted to. I built what you Instagrammed. As I spoke, I inserted screenshots, receipts, timestamps, email threads. My voice stayed level, calm. The funny thing about being erased is, it doesn't always hurt. Sometimes it clarifies. And then, to close, when people say you didn't show up, sometimes it's because they shut the door before you arrived. I clicked upload. The title? A Quiet Seat. A Loud Truth. I wasn't sure who'd see it. I didn't promote it, just posted it publicly, turned off comments, and went to bed. The next morning, my phone was lit like a Christmas tree. 34,000 views. By noon. Wedding vendors were resharing. A popular planner I'd never even met wrote, "Creative theft doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it wears pearls and hugs you at brunch." The hashtag Invisible Sister trended by late afternoon. I read the comments silently. She was erased and still showed up with grace. This is why I record everything now. Families like this break people. I didn't reply. I didn't repost. I just watched. Then Callista broke her silence. A text at 3:12 p.m. "Callista, you've gone too far. People are canceling vendors over this." I looked at the screen, then typed, "Me. I haven't even said your name." Her response came instantly. "Callista, you didn't have to. Everyone knows." That was all she wrote. Then Reagan decided to skip me and go straight to Tyler. She DM'd him on Instagram. "Reagan, hey, I know things are tense, but can we talk?" I feel like Odalyn's spiraling. He blocked her, didn't even tell me until hours later. "She's trying to spin it like you're unstable," he said, handing me his phone to see the blocked notification. She must be scared. I didn't smile, but inside I felt something settle, like a loose hinge finally locking into place. Then came James. At 7:21 p.m., I got a voice message. "Hey, I saw the receipts, I read the folder, and I've had enough of the lies. I'm sorry I didn't see it earlier. I'm talking to Callista tonight. I told her I want to pause the wedding planning." Pause. He continued, "You need to fix what you broke. Not just with your sister, within yourself." I didn't reply. What was there to say? It wasn't my mess to fix anymore. Just as I was closing my phone, it rang. My mother. It had been weeks. I stared at the name, debated letting it go to voicemail. Then I picked up. "What happened to keeping things in the family?" she snapped. I didn't answer right away. I waited. Then spoke, low and steady. "What family? The one that let me be humiliated for sport? You always make yourself the victim, Odalyn." I hung up. No yelling, no tears, just a click. Later that night, Aunt Vivian lit the fuse. She posted the video in the family group chat. No context, just the link and one line, "Aunt Vivian." This needed to be said, loudly, proudly, finally. My mother left the group within 10 minutes. Callista deleted every photo from the engagement party off her feed. Reagan? She posted a selfie holding a smoothie. The caption read, "So done with messy energy." But at 11:03 p.m., a message popped up on my screen. From Callista. "Callista, can we talk?" I stared at it for a long time. I had no idea whether that message was the start of an apology or another setup. I stared at the screen for a while, rereading Callista's message. "Can we talk?" It could have been an olive branch, or a knife, disguised as one. Instead of replying immediately, I forwarded the text to Yvette Monroe, my lawyer, a family law specialist, sharp as glass, kind as winter sun. She was the only one I trusted to sit with me through whatever was about to unfold. Callista had suggested we meet at a cafe halfway between her place and mine. I countered, "My lawyer's office tomorrow at 2 p.m. She agreed, albeit with a ... hesitation before her final reply, "Okay." The next day, I arrived 5 minutes early. Yvette and I sat in the glass-walled conference room, sleek table, legal pads, cold water. Callista showed up 2 minutes late in beige and faux calm, sunglasses perched like armor. She looked around, clearly not expecting a third chair. Her expression curled a bit when she noticed Yvette. "You didn't say you were bringing legal counsel," she said, sliding into the seat like it was beneath her. I met her gaze. "You didn't say we were meeting to apologize, so I came prepared." Silence passed like a heavy train. She finally cleared her throat. "You didn't have to make it public, Adeline." "You didn't have to make it war," I said, my voice low. "But here we are." Yvette didn't say a word. She just opened the manila folder in front of her and flipped to a document marked Lease Acquisition, Evergreen Hall. I turned it toward Callista. "That event space you just signed for your bridal shower? The one you were so excited about?" She blinked, slow and confused. "What about it?" "I bought the lease last month," I said, "through a holding company." Her mouth opened. No words came. "I'm not canceling your booking. You can still use it, but not under the event brand you stole from me. I had that name trademarked 2 weeks ago. You'll be receiving a cease and desist by Friday." Callista's face flushed pink. Not red, not rage, embarrassment. Yvette smiled politely, folded the file closed. "You're welcome to rebrand," I added, rising from my seat. "But the room you built without me? I own it now." By evening, Reagan had uploaded a video to her followers, a vague ramble that sounded more rehearsed than heartfelt. Her voice trembled just enough to seem human. "She's a bitter sister," Reagan said into the camera, trying to sabotage a happy moment. But she didn't count on the internet's memory. Within an hour, wedding planners and venue operators began stitching together screenshots. Her name appeared on complaint threads, tagged alongside event theft accusations. Reddit lit up. A thread titled "Bridesmaid or Brand Thief" hit the front page. I stayed quiet. James didn't. He left a public comment on my original video, just below the pinned caption. "I'm marrying into this family, but Adeline deserves better than how she was treated. She's not a victim. She's a witness to truth." His comment exploded overnight, over 10,000 likes. Even some of Reagan's former clients began questioning past invoices. That was when Mom called. "Family healing dinner," she announced, like it was a royal proclamation. "We're meeting Thursday at 6. I expect you to come." I didn't reply right away, but I went. When I walked into the house, it was mostly empty. Aunt Vivienne was there, Uncle Mason, a cousin or two. Callista stood near the back wall, arms crossed. Dinner was already served. No one had touched it. "I'm not here for food," I said, loud enough to cut the small talk. They turned. "This isn't a dinner. This is a burial. For the version of me you all liked best, the quiet one, the one who paid and stayed in the background." Aunt Vivian didn't speak, but I saw her eyes water. My mother looked at me like I was a stranger. Callista didn't speak. I stood there for another few seconds, then turned and walked out. That night, just before midnight, my phone buzzed again. "Callista, the wedding's on hold, not because of you, but because I finally heard you." Attached was a voice note. I hesitated before playing it. Callista's voice cracked almost instantly. "All this time I thought being the center of attention meant I mattered, but you were the one holding everything up, and I didn't see it until you stopped holding." I sat in bed, the phone resting on my chest. I didn't need her to say sorry, but maybe that message was the first brick laid in rebuilding something real. The message sat unopened on my phone all night. I didn't touch it again, not because I was afraid, but because something in me had finally settled. I didn't need to chase clarity anymore. Let her catch up on her own. A month passed. The wedding was quietly postponed. There was no announcement, no explanation, just a blank date where once there had been countdown posts and pastel-colored dreams. I didn't ask questions. I was busy. My rebranded consulting firm, now simply Odalin & Co-Seer, had tripled in bookings since the video went live. I'd stopped checking view counts after it hit 100,000. What mattered more were the emails from women saying, "You told my story. Thank you." The business was mine now. Fully mine. No more sharing credit with people who couldn't spell my name right on press releases. No more letting someone else step in front of the camera while I stayed up building the blueprint. Most days were quiet, focused, freeing. Then, on a Tuesday morning, a small padded envelope arrived at my office. No return address, just my name, handwritten. I opened it slowly. Inside was a single place card, folded, crumpled, wine-stained, the one from the engagement party. My name had been printed on it but never set out. Tucked beside it, a yellow, sticky note. This didn't belong in the trash. Callista. I didn't cry. Instead, I walked over to the corkboard above my desk and pinned it next to a quote I'd saved years ago. "You are not too much. You were just never in rooms made to hold you." I didn't see it as a peace offering. I saw it as a record, a confirmation. You were never invisible. They just couldn't see. Later that week, James dropped by unannounced. He brought coffee and a manila envelope. "Callista's still in therapy," he said. "I'm staying out of her process, but I wanted you to know she's actually doing it." He handed me a printed refund confirmation. One of the vendors, Reagan's company, had been officially dropped from the planning. "That wasn't my suggestion," he added. "She made that call." I nodded. "Thank you for letting me know." That night, I hosted something small. Just a dinner. Tyler, Aunt Vivian, a couple close friends who'd stood by me when the lights dimmed. The table was long, linen-draped, set with simple white plates and flickering tea lights. No toasts, no speeches, just laughter between bites, soft jazz in the background, and the sound of being seen. I sat at the head of the table, not because I demanded it, but because someone had asked, "Odalin, you want to sit here?" And for the first time in a long time, I said yes. After they'd gone home and Tyler was asleep, I found a letter in the mailbox. No return address, but the handwriting gave it away immediately. My father. He'd said nothing during any of this, not a word in group texts, not a like, not even a blink. But there it was, a page of clean, unlined paper. I saw what they did. I said nothing. I was wrong. I've watched you walk through fire without setting anything aflame. I admire you, and I hope one day to earn your trust again. There wasn't a single excuse in that note, no rewrites of history, just a pause, a breath, a beginning. I kept it, not for reconciliation, for record. Later that week, I sat down in front of the camera again. No script, no folder this time, just me. A little older now, a little quieter, but clearer. "I wasn't kicked out of a wedding," I said. "I was freed from a role I was never meant to beg for." Sometimes you don't need a stage, just the silence to hear your own worth again. And if someone tells you you don't belong, remember, that's not rejection, that's redirection. Because now, when I sit at any table, it's because I pulled up the chair myself. I ended the recording there. No music, no dramatic fade-out. Just truth. Above my desk, that wrinkled place card fluttered slightly under the breeze from the ceiling fan, and this time, my name was on it, in ink, not invisible.